Hello, fellow fantasy sports fans. Welcome to MFSN, the Hub's fantasy football waiver wire show every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, except that we're actually switching to 8:45 and 5:45 starting next week. It is waiver wire week 4, NFL week 5. I'm here with Casey Vlad to the Bone Scheinbold and Ross the Boss.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk NFL waiver wire with you, Cowboy. And we actually have a special guest today. He's one of my favorite guys. Why don't you introduce him, Dan? He's the best. I can't wait.
I will. And meanwhile, Ross, you disappeared right at the beginning of the show. You're just gone. All right. See if you can investigate your camera, but I'm going to introduce our special guest. It's Jim Giannacchio, former sports broadcaster with Turner Broadcasting and NBC. Jim, thank you for joining us.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, and I'm ready to talk some football.
I love it. He's right in the spirit of things. Guys, we're going to dive right in, and remember, the rules are Yahoo, 60% and under rostership. Now, listen, if we make mistakes, which we all do, I've said somebody was 87% owned last week, but I owned it. On this network, we own it. So, guys, we're going to start off with QBs. Now, Jim, I'm not going to put you on the hot seat right away unless you want to jump in. Casey, I'm going to turn to you. And Ross, I don't know where you are, but you jump in as needed. Casey, who is your number one quarterback pickup this week?
Well, my number one quarterback pickup is not the most exciting quarterback pickup. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think still the number one quarterback pickup is Sam Darnold. Again, for Carolina last week, he ran for 2 touchdowns, threw 2 touchdowns. We debated him last week whether he was a better pickup than Derek Carr. I just think he's doing it against these proven teams. He's done it consistent now. We're through 4 weeks of the season, and he's still producing numbers week in and week out, and he's only 37% owned as of this afternoon. So he's somebody I would go and pick up at the quarterback position.
Now, Jim, before I turn it over to you, I'm just going to say I don't think Sam Darnold is an unexciting pickup. I'm actually super excited to pick him up at this point. He scored 5 touchdowns on the ground so far. He's the new Cam Newton. And he's even the Carolina Panthers quarterback. So this guy, I thought he was going to have a good year moving from the Jets. It's easier to play when you're not on the Jets these days.
Yeah, but I think the kind of the sexy pick is with Jimmy G, the other Jimmy G, maybe not the more talented Jimmy G.
All right, well let's see what Jim thinks about this. Sam Darnold or Trey Lance? Who's your pickup?
I go with Darnold. I think Darnold has got the hot hand. I mean, 300 passing yards in 3 straight games. I mean, he's really picked up his pace with the Panthers this year, and I think they're looking pretty good. And I think they're going to do some big things. I think Darnold's a great pick. I think that's who I would pick. I mean, if I were taking somebody else to replace my quarterback, 49ers are going through some changes, yeah, but I think Darnold's the guy.
I agree. I mean, Trey Lance is going to be, I think, spectacular in his career in all likelihood, but it's going to be uneven. And when Jimmy G comes back, he might not keep that job. I would bet that he does, but why chance it? Sam Darnold's putting up like top 10 quarterback numbers already. And I think he's going to keep it up.
He's making DJ Moore look like a true number one wideout too. The numbers DJ Moore are putting up there is pretty spectacular.
Now, I will say this. After Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, there's a pretty big drop-off for me in terms of guys that are available on the wire because Derek Carr is now over 60% owned anyway. And listen, he's still Derek Carr. He's been the same guy. Great quarterback in terms of some skills, but, fantasy player, he's been kind of middling. A guy that I really like, though, is Taylor Heineke. He's only 10% owned. And another
You're coming to my side, Dan.
Yes, I have. And but you might as well also, if you have an IR spot, stash Fitzmagic. Stash him and Heineke, and then you got something. Ross, I see you're back.
I'm back. You can't get rid of me, guys. You can try to get rid of me, but it doesn't work. Ross the Boss is back.
Ross the Boss is he seems to be representing himself as if he's like a cockroach or something. We're not trying to get rid of you, Ross.
Superheroes like Batman.
Okay. Now I got
Batman.
It. All right, so I don't know if you were listening, but we mentioned
I was listening. The guy that's consistent every week is Daniel Jones. 400 yards, 2 touchdown passes, and you're not considering him as your top waiver wire pick?
Look, Daniel Jones is great. He's my next pick of those 3, but he really did not perform against Atlanta 2 weeks ago. He played really well last week, but to say he's been consistent, I think is a bit of a reach.
Fine. He's not consistent, but you know what? 400 yards, and Barkley is getting close to what he was before he got injured. KC Scheinbold, he sure is. You better watch out, Giant fans, because you guys are going to start winning some games, and Casey Scheinfeld will start wearing the Giants jersey on the show. You'll see and watch.
I got it right here.
All right, Jim. Before we move on from quarterbacks, is there anybody else that you'd pick up in leagues? And let's say you're playing in a super flex league, you got 2 quarterbacks, you're really going to need somebody, or if just a decent backup. Who are you looking at?
I'll be honest with you. I'd rather take the leading quarterbacks for Alabama and Georgia before I start talking about the NFL. I mean, there's a reason why those 2 teams are in a league on their own in the NCAA. So because everybody else in the NFL, I don't know. I don't think I touch anybody else right now.
I also, guys I got to see in person play is Trevor Lawrence on Thursday night. I was at the Bengals game against
Cincinnati,
Jacksonville. And Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. I mean, this guy runs the ball. He throws the ball with perfection. I mean, I would not be ashamed to have him as my starting quarterback. He's good.
Now, Ross, I'm getting some intel. You've got to switch your camera. You got to turn it the other way. We got to get you focused right. There we go. Now we got Ross the boss. Okay, I'm just going to mention one other thing about quarterbacks, and I just have to comment. As a Browns fan, Jim, I have to comment. It's time to cut Baker Mayfield if you haven't already. And it's not just because he had a bad game, but he's also in a run-first offense. I'm not actually worried about him in real life as a quarterback, game manager with some talent. But as a fantasy player, he's not going to do it this year.
Yeah, as a fantasy commercial guy, he does. But, I agree with you.
Absolutely. He's a surprisingly good actor.
He's an ass.
And he's not part of the running game for them, so it's not like he even contributes that way.
Meanwhile, Ross, I don't know if you heard this, but Casey said that Cincinnati's opponent was Cincinnati, which might be true. I think
I said Jacksonville. Thank you very much.
He said Jacksonville. I said it was in Cincinnati.
I didn't say this, guys, but Cleveland, Cincinnati, and the Giants all won last week, which is the first time in 50 years I think that happened. So things are good here. Birds are chirping. Cincinnati's 3-1. I feel good. Casey feels good. Dan feels good. We all feel good about our team. So let's move on.
And I can tell you, my buddies in New York, they're saying, "Oy vey!" They're collecting the Daily News, the New York Times, the Newsday newspapers, because they love the headlines because they haven't seen Jets Giants both win in the same weekend, and God knows how long.
Listen, this could set off a global pandemic, but it looks like we have that.
Sunday was a good day. You had the Yankees win, the Giants win, and the Jets win. So.
I mean, hey, it's a trio.
Spreading the news. All right, guys, let's move on to running backs. We've got some running backs that are rising up the charts. This is obnoxious, but this is an I told you so moment. There's 2 guys up there in my I all 4 of these guys I've been touting the entire time. I'm not even that good, Jim. Trust me, but I got this right. We'll get to who those are. But Ross, let's start with you. Who's your top running back?
Top running back pickup right now is Damian Williams for the Chicago Bears. Montgomery's hurt. Montgomery's knee is hurt. 911. Call 911. His knee is hurt. Damian Williams is coming to the rescue. Chicago loves to run the ball. If I needed a streaker, we call that somebody short term. It's going to get some yards, Jim. Damian Williams is my man.
Yeah, I agree with you with Williams. I was going to pick Williams as well, but I mean, my second pick is got to be Simon J. Perine from the Bengals. I mean, he's with Mixon tweaking that ankle late in the game against Jacksonville. I mean, I think he's a great pickup.
And what's the latest intel with Mixon? Because if he's out for a bit,
he gets guys. In all seriousness, he's hurt every year. Every year he's hurt.
Well, but listen,
most running backs are. It's a tough position. Football. If you've got a guy who's going to play, let's say 3 or 4 games, some people might be like, oh, that's not worth it. Listen, first of all, he could play for much longer, and secondly, 3 or 4 games, if it can win you that, it can get you into the playoffs all by itself. Now, a guy that I've been quite high on throughout. I didn't get thrown off by the beginning of the season. Is Trey Sermon. Ross hates the San Francisco backfield because it is a muddled mess. But the injuries are piling up, and Trey Sermon is healthy, and he is the talented guy with the draft pedigree. I find it hard to believe they're going to admit something like they did the wrong job in picking him, especially when he's looking pretty good. Jim, what's your take on Trey Sermon?
I think he's okay. I think he's a decent running back, but the Niners, they're really struggling because when they finally get somebody healthy, then everybody focuses on that one running back. And I think it becomes too much of a demand on one runner to focus on in an offense like that. You've got to have some other weapons to go with. And
you know what I wonder though? I wonder if Trey Lance coming in helps the running backs. because it opens up the game to have a running quarterback.
Well, that does help. Yeah. It helps.
Casey, who do you have on your list that we haven't mentioned already?
Well, I mentioned him last week too. J.D. McKissick in Washington. Antonio Gibson is clearly the number one running back there, but on passing downs and in the red zone, Ron Rivera has shown a tendency to play J.D. McKissick there. This past week, again, he caught 5 balls for 44 yards and a touchdown. That alone, if you're in a PPR league, is 15 points. And so that's great numbers out of somebody who's only 39% owned. The other one I'd like to talk about, because it shocked me yesterday, was Alex Collins in Seattle. Chris Carson was always the number one. It seemed like that was indisputed. And then all of a sudden yesterday, he gets 10 carries for 44 yards and a touchdown, plus 2 receptions for 34 yards. Pete Carroll is maddening in that respect, I guess, because all of a sudden Alex Collins is making all those Chris Carson owners worry.
The Irish two-stepper, we call him in the business. He likes the Irish two-step, Alex Collins, and that's a good call, Casey Scheinfeld. I agree with you with Alex. I feel that you can't predict what Pete Carroll's going to do, but Alex Collins is a good pickup this week.
All right, now 2 guys that I was touting, and listen, I had my doubts. I had touted Zack Moss, and then I was like, oh my God, this guy is off the radar. But now he's getting the goal line carries. I love Buffalo's offense. They're going to be playing downhill a lot of the time. You could do a lot worse for Flex and Zack Moss. I'm not saying he's, the greatest pickup, but he's a really solid pickup. I think one other guy that I want to mention is Kenneth Gainwell. This guy he's explosive. He's a rookie on a pretty good team.
Yeah, that is a good choice.
And look, he's actually the highest scoring back below 60% owned.
Yeah.
The proof is in the pudding. Jim?
He's good. He's a good catch receiver. He had a lot of yards catching the ball yesterday. He doesn't get a lot of touches rushing, but you can't go wrong with Gainwell. I love his name. It's a good pickup.
Yeah,
right.
and
go ahead.
I was going to say the backfield you have to avoid right now is the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, Tyson Williams was suddenly a healthy scratch yesterday after 3 weeks ago. He was seen as the kind of number one running back there, and Latavius Murray is suddenly getting 18 carries in a game. He's under 48. He's at 48% owned, and he did well, but you just can't try. Like, he would be one you could take a flyer on hoping he gets the carries, but who knows what Harbaugh is doing there in Baltimore with his backfield.
And another mess is in Miami. Gaskin is going to be benched. Malcolm Brown's going to be the starting running back, but does it really matter? Do you think the Miami backs are going to get any points? No, Miami's a mess until Tua comes back.
Yeah. And then the Jets, look at the Jets. They've got now, hey, listen, their number one back right now is Michael Carter. So it looks like he might get some yardage. And hey, having a number one back in a fantasy lineup is important, even if it's the Jets. I mean, you got to just
I
hope and wish.
Yeah, Michael Carter's the obviously the best pickup on the Jets backfield right now. He does show that explosiveness, and they seem to like him this week, and they won, and that momentum alone can keep him getting the touches.
He did win.
Now, Jim, I will orient you just to this part of the show where Ross usually is very disparaging of the Jets, understandably so. And I like it. I like it about Ross coming out and saying that. He's just like, don't own any Jets. They'll kill you. But if you are going to own a Jet, isn't Michael Carter the guy? I mean, a starting running back, it's pretty valuable. Listen, I'm not going to own a Jets wide receiver. That's not.
I'm going to name a Jets wide receiver in the next segment, by the way.
Yes.
All right, well, we're about to get there. But I do want to say with Alex Collins, just to revisit that, NFL teams are more and more trying to spell their top running backs and save their legs. So I could see Alex Collins really carving out a pretty useful role here. So I just wanted to say that. Any other guys that we want to mention before we move on to wide receiver?
Nope. That about exhausts.
You know what?
Derrick Henry's under. No, Derrick Henry's over. No,
Derrick Henry not under 60%.
Okay, didn't know.
But
okay.
I do want to say this, just to show that I sometimes will brag if I get something right because I'm proud of it because I've been wrong about so many things. But I'm going to tell you something that I got hilariously wrong. Okay, I had a friend. He asked me like, who's a deep sleeper, and I was like, I think Philip Lindsay is the guy. I think he's going to be really good on Houston. Okay, now listen. Philip Lindsay has 24 rushing attempts for 31 yards.
Ouch. Casey Scheinfeld could do a little better than that. Trust me.
That's like 1.3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
I think Casey and I we could probably average that yardage, but we would be instantly injured.
Yes.
So got to give him that credit.
Once I got 1.3 yards past the line of scrimmage and a linebacker met me, I would be done forever.
If they would hand it off to us and we would just run backwards. All right, guys. I'm going to give myself a little treat here, and I'm going to start us off on wide receiver.
Oh, great.
There's a guy that I really want to mention.
Great.
And what you should know is I will mention a guy, and he will immediately go in the tank. So I think it's going to happen. We'll see. I think Zach Pascal is a really great receiver to pick up right now. He's scoring a lot of touchdowns. He's only 23% owned. Carson Wentz is very hit or miss these days.
He's a horrible fantasy quarterback, but move on.
But I think, okay, so move on. Are you saying that Zach Pascal
move on. Carson
isn't
Wentz is a horrible fantasy quarterback.
No,
we didn't recommend
I'm
Carson
not telling
Wentz.
you to pick up Carson Wentz at wide receiver.
Oh, I thought you were. Okay, I didn't
Zach
know.
Pascal.
Although I think he played better at wide receiver.
That's true.
So you like Pascal.
He gets hurt at quarterback. Imagine what would happen at wide receiver.
Absolutely.
There's only one guy that I have above Pascal this week, and it's Christian Kirk, who is 60% owned. You can just get in on the wire. That's probably the last time we'll ever be able to mention.
No, but he 5 yards last week with one catch or something?
Listen, I understand. He underperformed, but that's going to happen. It's like the Rams receivers. You're going to have some boom or bust there, but you could do a lot worse than plugging Christian Kirk in because he also could go for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns.
You're right. Texas A&M graduate. Man, I like Christian Kirk. You can't go bad picking him up.
Jim, tell us who you got on your radar at wide receiver.
Hey, listen, it's Lambeau Field, it's Rodgers, it's Randall Cobb.
Cobb salad.
Connection is back, guys.
Little Cobb salad.
He's back in.
On the DL.
He's
Good
back
pickup,
in.
Dane. Good pickup, Jim.
Yeah, I love Randall Cobb. Did you see the way he and Rodgers? It looked like they hadn't missed a beat, considering they hadn't been apart together for a few years.
Yeah, Randall Cobb, you can tell is feeling
and
better.
especially with defenses focusing so much on Devontae Adams. Cobb's
Absolutely.
running free on single coverage almost the entire game.
Although you can put 3 men on Devontae and he still gets loose. I don't know how he does it.
It's incredible. But not only that, you got MBS is out for a couple weeks at least. Alan Lazard has really not done anything, so there really is room for Cobb to be there.
Scalens is out. The tight end for the Green Bay is not playing at all. He's barely catching the ball. So Cobb, I think, is their number 2 receiver right now.
All right, Casey, who do you got?
Well, I'm going to name the Jet first, even though he's not my top pickup, just because you said never own a Jets receiver. But Jamison Crowder was back for 1 week, got 9 targets, 7 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. He's kind of that prototypical perfect slot receiver, which feels like a security blanket for a rookie quarterback. So I could see him going to him often, like all the time, kind of like Sterling Shepard, the role he was playing before he got hurt in the Giants offense. I just see somebody who in a PPR league is going to catch 6 to 10 balls a game, might not find the end zone that much, but if you're getting 6 receptions, that's the same as a touchdown in a PPR league. So Jamison Crowder, I wanted to name. The other one is Justin Fields seemed to have an affinity for Darnell Mooney in Chicago. He got a lot of hype in the preseason as a sleeper, kind of that number 2 wide receiver behind Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson hasn't produced. This past weekend, 5 receptions, 125 yards for Darnell Mooney, 10 targets. I don't know what the quarterback situation in Chicago is going to be. That's why I can't name him as a must-add because
Nagy's an idiot.
Matt Nagy's frustrating everybody going back between the Red Rocket and Justin Fields. And so, but I think Fields has a real connection to Mooney. And by all accounts, you would think this is Fields' job going forward. You wouldn't have traded up and given the 10th overall pick or whatever it was to get him, to let him start for 2 games, get some momentum going, and then all of a sudden to bench him again. It just makes no sense. And so I think Darnell Mooney is somebody who's 38% owned that you can get right now that has the potential to be an everyday wide receiver for you.
Now, I do want to make one other point, which is, this is the time in the season where we really need to look for these deep ads. So owning a Jet is more, it's more acceptable than ever because the
palatable,
yes. The bye weeks are coming up. You're going to listen, many of you out there are going to play a Jet. It's going to happen.
It's never going to happen here.
It's never going to happen with Ross.
On my team.
Hey, now, Jim, I want to put you a little on the spot because I want to get to know you in this way.
Yes.
How big of a fantasy football guy are you? How many leagues are you in? How long have you been playing?
I'm in 3 leagues, and one of the leagues I've been in for 16 years. I've been playing since before it actually hit the internet and computers. We played at CNN back in the day. It was Dan Patrick, Keith Olbermann. The names are just endless of guys and the whole reason for it, guys, think about this. And it really makes a lot of sense, right? I came from Atlanta. One guy came from Baltimore, another guy from New York. And we all came down to CNN and it launched. And back then we knew about our local teams mostly because that's what we did, 6 and 11 o'clock sports. But then when it came down to working at CNN, how are you going to keep up with every player in all the leagues, NFL, Major League Baseball, everything? And so the best way was to have a fantasy league, or as we called it back then, a rotisserie league, where we pick players. And then all of a sudden we were remembering players. And how are we doing it? Because we're saying, damn it, that's Olbermann's guy. Oh, darn it, that's Patrick's guy. And all of a sudden we're focusing on those guys. So we're focused on our team. We're focused on those guys. And before long, we became experts as all the players in all the leagues. It just became a lot of fun. So that's why we got involved. That's why I got involved. And I've never lost it since then.
I love it. It's you got into this as a hazard of your job.
Yeah.
Like the rest of us just
Absolutely.
wanted to play a game.
Yeah.
That's incredible. But yes, I know what you mean. Now I know players. Ross got me into a hockey league, and now I know hockey players. I mean, it's
that's good. You have to buy a vowel to say their names.
I was going to say, I'm not looking forward to that waiver wire show.
All right, jumping back to wide receivers. This is a guy I have to mention, even though he's over 60% owned. I don't know, is it Cordarrelle or Cordero Patterson?
Cordero is what they.
Cordero Patterson, yeah, with the Falcons, yeah.
I mean, he's 76% owned, but he is currently the number 6th ranked scorer, I believe, 6 or 7.
Well, he's the number 2 ranked scoring running back, and I think the number 4 ranked scoring wide receiver.
You are correct, sir.
And even so, I can't even get a 5th round pick for him in Dynasty.
I think Patterson's
I'll give you a 5th round pick.
Yeah, I think Patterson's a great player to have in any league. And the reason being is because you can put him in that running back slot. You can put him in that wide receiver slot. It doesn't matter. You can play him either way. And, when you can get away with having flexibility, especially when you're talking about these off weeks coming up, that makes a big difference.
He's huge. So the fact that he's only 76% owned right now, I think that's going to be close to 90 soon. Okay, a couple other guys to mention. I'll mention one, then I'll open it up for discussion. But
I haven't gone yet, but keep going.
Oh no, I'm sorry, Ross. So every once in a while, I like to slight you in some way.
Skip Ross. You don't care about my opinions. It doesn't matter. Keep going. Who else do you have on your mind?
I know how to get you going. Well, I'm going to say this anyway. So I don't know if I would add this guy. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. I do not know what to make of Van Jefferson. I don't know. I mean, the Rams spread the ball a lot. He's one of these guys that's a deep threat, and so he's not getting a ton of targets, but he's also genuinely putting up numbers. Ross, I'm going to go to you because you make me nervous. Go ahead.
So Van Jefferson is a good pickup. I mean, Robert Woods is doing nothing this year. I mean, he's doing good. Coop's the big receiver in Los Angeles, as we all know. So Van Jefferson, right now, he's the number 2 receiver in Los Angeles.
Which
Rams,
is a big deal.
Is.
I mean,
I think it's
a lot.
I think he's a great pickup, guys, because, I mean, let's face it, 6 catches for 90 yards. I mean, Stafford's got an eye on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, look, Stafford's new to the scene. So when you see a guy having consistency with another guy, it's kind of like Aaron Rodgers and Randall Cobb, except we've seen this story before. But
and Sean
Jefferson, you're seeing it unfold. Go ahead, Ken.
Yeah, I was going to say Sean McVay spreads the ball around. They don't have a bell cow running back. If Henderson coming back from injury, you have Sonny Michel. So it's not like they're going to be I'm going to pound the ball 40 times a game or 30 times a game up the middle. They're going to spread the ball around, and they got a lot of targets there with Higbee, Woods, Kupp, and Jefferson. So there's going to be openings for him to catch 5 or 6 balls every once in a while.
All right. Anybody else to mention before we move on?
Curtis Samuel of Washington coming up the IR this week. He's going to have some huge games. Didn't show anything on Sunday. Had like 2 catches. Doesn't matter. Curtis Samuel in Washington. Another guy I love is also AJ Green, University of Georgia product for Arizona. As I mentioned to start the season, Arizona was my dark horse. They're one of the only 2 teams that are undefeated, Casey Scheinfeld. You laughed at me when I said Arizona.
No, I laughed at you when you said AJ Green. I laughed at you and said AJ Green just because I can't remember the last time he's played a full season.
Doesn't matter. He had a touchdown and over 60 yards last week, Casey Scheinfeld.
He absolutely
A.J.
did.
Green is his second favorite target. Hopkins is hurt. He's a decoy. We call it a decoy in the business. He's not 100%. They're throwing the ball to A.J. Green. They're throwing the ball to Max Williams. They got a lot of targets in Arizona, Casey Scheinfeld. So you'll see more of A.J. Green during the season. And that
if they have a lot of targets, wouldn't I see less of A.J. Green? But if they have a lot of targets, wouldn't I see less of him?
No, you're going to see A.J. Green. He might even be all pro this year, Casey Scheinfeld. He's that good.
Okay.
We'll see. Now, Jim, is there anybody we did not mention in wide receivers you'd like to make sure we get in there?
No, not really. I think, Curtis Samuel in Washington, I was thinking. So same thing. But,
came off the IR.
Yeah, I think that's the one. I really believe that's going to be a good pickup. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to tight end. Tight end is such a tough position, but to me, there's one clear addition that's under 60% owned. I won't say it is. I'm going to see who comes up with it. Casey,
I know.
Start with you. Go ahead.
Dawson Knox in Buffalo, I think, is the clear number one pickup at tight end. Well, again, 2 weeks ago, he caught touchdowns. This week, he caught another 2 touchdowns. It looks like he's the big target for Josh Allen there in the red zone when they throw the ball. Stephon Diggs, super talented guy. Go Terps. I'm a big Maryland fan, so always rooting for him. But he's not putting up the numbers this year because Josh Allen's spreading the ball around. And in the red zone, it looks like he's looking for Dawson Knox.
Yeah, and I think it's increasingly happened. It's just like how teams are running with 2 running backs to spare their running back. I think teams are also spreading it out because they've gotten wise to the fact that they can catch defenses off guard rather than always locking in on one player. And a guy like Dawson Knox, he's just playing in a high-powered offense. I mean, he's 47% owned. The other guys I have listed here are so much worse in terms of their likelihood to end up with red zone targets.
I wanted to ask Ross's opinion on one because he was at the game. What's your opinion of Uzoma, CJ Uzoma? He caught a couple touchdowns this past week.
This was his biggest game of the year. I think Burrow has confidence in him. I don't think he's a bad pickup. He had 2 big touchdowns, huge point getter. There's a lot more worse tight ends you can pick than CJ. So I think it's a good pickup. Another guy that I like who had the most targets in Dallas this week is Dalton Schultz. Yep. Dalton Schultz, 2 touchdowns last week, 1 touchdown this week. This guy is just a machine. And, everybody was saying that he's not going to get the ball that much. The regular guys came back. Not true in Dallas. Dalton Schultz is a really good pickup, and he's just going to get more and more targets. So beware of that one.
I agree with you, Ross. My only concern is the same one I have about tight ends in New England is Blake Jarwin also caught a touchdown this past week in Dallas. And so when you're throwing it to 2 different tight ends, it's hard to rely on any one of them. And that's what I say about Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. They both also, I believe, had touchdowns this past week last night. And so I agree with you that Dalton Schultz is clearly talented and showing that Dak Prescott trusts him. But I always worry if running a guy out there who's one of a tight end tandem. It's hard to support 2 tight ends in an offense.
I agree, but he got 8 targets, Dalton Schultz. 8 targets, 6 catches.
All right, let's
80-something yards receiving.
Jim's tight end strategy. Generally speaking, Jim, what do you do in fantasy leagues? Do you wait on tight end? What do you like to do?
Well, last year, my second pick of the draft was Kelsey. So that's how important my tight end position was because he ended up being one of the highest scorers in the league. So if he was available, that tight end position, I was taking Kelsey immediately, and I did. And I won the league last year. So it makes a difference on these tight ends. Now, with that being said, it was one I wanted to mention, although if the quarterback Kirk Cousins can even hit his receivers, considering he only scored 7 points this last weekend, I think Tyler Conklin could be a good tight end if he had a decent quarterback that would see him on a regular basis.
I agree. And also I would encourage people not to be thrown off by the Vikings game. I mean, look, I'm a Browns fan, so you could call me a homer, but they brought so much pressure on Kirk Cousins, and that's when his skill level goes down. If they successfully run the ball with Dalvin Cook, it takes all that pressure off him, and he picks teams apart. So I think Tyler Conklin is a great pickup. Case, who else do you have in mind?
The only other one is, I think I'll let Ross say him because he's been saying his name all night. Who are we talking about, Ross?
Mo Alley Cox.
Tell us about Mo Alley Cox. You can't just say Mo Alley Cox and then
You
stop.
say it.
I know, right?
It's more of Dan's favorite tight end. Dan loves the name. Why don't you say it, Dan? Go ahead.
Mo Alley Cox. I didn't even know I loved it that much. Ross is just assigning this love to me. All right.
Mo Alley Cox.
Anything to say about him or just his name?
No, he had 2 touchdowns on Sunday. He had 42 yards receiving, and all about tight ends. If your tight end can get 1 touchdown a game, you're happy. So Mo Alley Cox having 2 touchdowns isn't bad.
Listen,
and maybe he'll do it again next week. I have no idea.
In week 1, I started Mike Giusicki. He scored 0 points. This is how bad tight end is. Tight end is so bad. He scored 0 points, and I wasn't even that disappointed.
the only one we have to name is left, I think, is not triple X, but double X Max Williams there in Arizona. As Ross so eloquently pointed out earlier, Arizona is spreading the ball around pretty well. Kyler Murray is playing out of his mind right now, and he's found Max Williams a few times in the past few weeks, and so that's the trusted guy running that seam route for them right now. And with the spread they can do with those wideouts and a mobile quarterback, Max Williams, I think, is going to keep seeing targets in the red zone.
And that's with 2 X's. Max, M-A-X-X.
Right. Max with 2 X's, not 3.
Right. I said not triple X, but double X.
That's right. Now, listen, if you're feeling bad about tight end, just remember, I started Mike Giusicki. He scored 0 points, and I wasn't even disappointed. Okay.
He had a good week this past week, though, I think.
That's true. After I've cut him long ago.
Of course, when he cut him, he has great. He's unbelievable now. He's unstoppable.
That's what happens.
Right. Guys, let's throw out some suggestions to people about. We're going to do defenses and kickers, and then we're going to talk a little bit about guys that you might want to actually start to think about cutting at this point. Jim, I will let you go first. Who's the number 1 defense? And you can pass if you want to, but
anybody playing the Jets or the Giants. It's that simple. Coming from New York.
Okay, but we also have these choices. We also have Houston. We have with Philip Lindsay of the 31 yards, 24 carries. We have Detroit. We have Chicago. There's a lot of teams to pick on this year, I find. But those are good picks. Let me check and see who the Jets and Giants are playing.
Well, the Giants are playing Dallas. I can tell you that right now. So you can look at the Dallas defense. Detroit is playing Minnesota, who just kept Cleveland in check a little bit. So that's not a bad one.
I'll help you guys a little bit. I'll give you Ross's rule. Always start a defense that's playing against a rookie quarterback. So this week coming up, we got Las Vegas is playing the Bears. So let's start the Raider defense against the Bears, against Fields. What do you guys think about that one? Let's do another one. The San Francisco 49ers, who's starting Trey Lance, is playing Arizona. I'm going to start the Arizona defense because I think Trey Lance is going to throw interceptions and going to fumble the ball at least once during the game. So those are 2 teams. Arizona and Las Vegas are 2 good pickups for next week.
Now, I could be wrong about the ownership of this, but New England, I think they might be under 60%. They're playing Houston, but I need to check that. I don't know.
I think they're over. Right. They're over.
Okay, well, listen, that is another rookie quarterback, and that's a rookie quarterback I'd want to start.
So then would you start Houston's defense against New England, Ross? Because that's a rookie quarterback.
Belichick's the exception. Mac Jones is not a rookie quarterback. He's a veteran of 10 years, and he plays like one. He showed us last night. This guy played very well against a really good
Mac
defense.
Jones,
world champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, guys, I just checked. New England 60% owned. You can have them on this show.
I thought we said under 60%.
60% owned or not. What's that?
It's close enough, Casey Scheinfeld.
Yeah, it's close enough.
All right, now this is a segment that sometimes is hard to even get the words out because it's kickers, but there's a lot of interesting kickers out there. Jim, we happen to love Matt Prater on this show because he came on to do an interview with us. And the guy is he's great. He's hilarious. He's a good guy. He also, I believe he was tied for the all-time kicking record recently.
He had the kicking record.
And then so
and
rudely
it was
taken away by Justin
same day
Tucker.
that he attempted a 68-yard field goal that was returned for a touchdown. It's madness. So listen, we all know kicker is a complete crapshoot. But Ross, who do you got? You tend to have a knack for these.
I like Mason Crosby. They're playing Cincinnati in the jungle, but it doesn't matter. I think Cincinnati's defense is okay. I think they can stop Aaron Rodgers in the red zone. And Mason Crosby has been unbelievable this year. So Mason Crosby is my pick, who's under 60% to pick up and start.
Case, how about you?
I'm going to go with your Cleveland Browns kicker, Chase McLaughlin. He's been kicking the ball really well. They're going against the Chargers, who have a notoriously poor run defense. So I think they're going to move the ball pretty well, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for field goals or extra points for him.
I mean, look, as a Browns fan, I have to say the fact that we have a kicker who can make field goals at all is extremely exciting. Jim, who do you have?
I don't know. I got to think about that one. Kickers, I don't plan that much in regards to my fantasy league. I just take them as the extra crapshoot for the weekend. It's like
you're whoever's. But I will mention Greg Joseph, the Minnesota kicker.
Oh, that's a good one.
Playing against Detroit and in a dome. Yeah, you have to start thinking about weather soon. We're not quite there, but I think it's a good pick. Guys, let's turn our attention to. This is one of my favorite things to do at this point in the season is to take a look at the players that we think maybe it's time to cut bait on them. Surprising players that you would cut. Ross, you tend to love this as well. So who do you have in mind that you're just like, I don't see it happening anymore? I mean, look.
Oh, I can give you a whole laundry list, but let's start with Calvin Ridley in Atlanta. I would cut his ass. He'll be gone. He'll bags are packed. Goodbye, Ridley. Ooh. Goodbye. Wow. Gaskin in Miami would be gone. To just go through the whole NFL roster, I mean, I could keep going. There's a long. There's Janine Garofalo in San Francisco.
I thought you said Janine Garofalo.
She's very funny.
Janine, I call him Janine Garofalo just so you guys know on purpose. Another person. I mean, there's a lot of players I would cut. I mean, Aaron Jones had a whopping 7 points last week. I wouldn't cut him quite yet, but I would try to trade him out of my team immediately. I'm very disappointed in him.
Jim, just so you understand, Ross doesn't have a very long leash.
George Kittle, huge disappointment this year. Probably one of the biggest disappointments in NFL history is George Kittle.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my goodness.
Unbelievably horrible. It's Casey Scheinfeld. And you can look up his stats and tell me why you would keep him on his team, because I want to hear why you would. Austin Eckler, he's okay. He was picked pretty high, first-round pick in some leagues. Not a first-rounder in my not in my league. No way, Casey Scheinfeld. No way. Any running back in Baltimore I would cut. They would all be gone. I don't know who to start. It's just a waste of time. They try to pick one out.
Monster.
I heard they're even trying out Le'Veon Bell.
They signed him. They didn't just try him out.
They did bring him in. Okay. Yeah. Hey, next week they'll bring in Barry Sanders.
That's right.
Or
Earl Campbell.
There's a whole bunch of people.
By the way, guys, we just need to take note of this. I just asked Ross, who are some guys you would cut? And then he just went on a blue streak for like 3 straight minutes of just all players that he wants to get rid of. It was awesome. Ross, well done.
Ross, the boss, do you actually have those guys in your fantasy team?
No, of course not. I think he would never cut them if he did.
I wouldn't really cut them, but I would consider trading him for like a bag of peanuts.
Yeah, MFSN fans out there, don't take Ross too seriously. He would not actually cut some of these guys. He might
maybe
trade
would.
them for peanuts.
Guys,
in a 5-team league.
I got to share something that's been a thorn in my side for the last 3 years in fantasy football. Okay,
oh, good. I like this.
This really drives me nuts.
We want Jim Giannocchio's rant.
One quarterback that really gets me, it's Kirk Cousins. I can't. He's so unpredictable. I mean, when you get into the big games, you don't know if he's going to have 4 touchdown passes and 400 yards. Or no touchdown passes and 3 interceptions. I mean, you just don't know week to week because Kirk Cousins is not consistent. He's consistently inconsistent.
That's right.
So you would cut him.
I would cut him because I'm tired of going up through a Sunday and praying that he's going to throw a touchdown pass before the clock runs out.
It's really hard. Players like that will drive you crazy. They're like the Bill Belichick of players. You never know what you're going to get from them. I agree with you. But now, excuse me, I have to say one more thing. If you take Mac Jones, like you're talking about just now, and you put him on the Vikings, now you got yourself a quarterback. Nice. So you're a big Mac Jones fan, huh?
Well, coming out of Saban's little country down there in Alabama.
So it sounds like you think that I should be. I'm probably going to have the number 1 pick in Dynasty. I should be eyeing the kid from Alabama, unless he's not coming.
Bryce Young.
I think he's only a sophomore. I don't think he's coming.
But I'll have the number 1 pick the next year too.
Yeah, I was going to say you and I are fighting for that for years.
That's right. All right, Case. Who else do you see?
I think at this point you can cut Mike Davis in Atlanta. Yep. I think Cordero Patterson has taken that job. I don't see how you can keep Mike Davis on the field when you're getting what you're getting out of Cordero Patterson. And the other one I think is Robbie Anderson in Carolina. He came in with a lot of hype, part of that 1-2 punch that Sam Darnold was going to have to throw to. But I think Terrace Marshall, the rookie, has kind of surpassed Anderson in the pecking order there. And Anderson, he was going to be a 4th round pick or a 5th round pick, and you're getting maybe 20th round value out of him right now. I don't see it getting any better.
Yeah, listen, let's give a little shout out to the fantasy football fans out there who are struggling in this way, because it's a killer, isn't it? I start my Sunday, I'm all excited. By the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, Robbie Anderson! It's like just a thorn in your side.
See, I'm lucky. Usually, the Thursday, whoever plays best on Thursday night was my opponent. So I usually wake up Sunday morning going, oh.
So this Thursday it's Seattle and the Rams. Is this Thursday? Which is going to be a really good game, I think. I'm excited for that game.
Whoever has Cooper Kupp, I'm probably playing you.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, by the way, we're talking Jets. We're talking defenses against the New York Jets. Falcons and Jets play overseas this weekend. So that's going to be interesting.
That's a real. That's
going to be NFL set up a great game overseas for the
Europe is really going to suck up those tickets
to watch.
Well, they're going to really enjoy that. Well, I mean, they'll probably. I mean, let's face it. In Atlanta last weekend, I think they had 20,000 at the game. So it's no wonder the home game for the Falcons is going to be overseas against the Jets.
And it starts here in Los Angeles at 6:30 a.m.
That game, though, is going to make Europe hate America even more. They're like, why'd you send us this?
This is disrespectful.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show in a minute. I just want to note, though, we have our rankings. Me, Ross, Casey, and Jim. If you want to get involved, you just let us know. You can get your rankings on there. We have the rankings every week. They're up on Wednesdays, so you can make your pickups for the Thursday games. It's on www.mfsn.com. And we are, what's that? .tv.
.tv.
Got our own website.
Got our own website.
Listen, guys, I have forgotten to mention it on the previous shows, so this is exciting that I remembered it at all. I think fantasy football may have given me dementia, but I'm doing okay. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. This was a blast
great
having
to be
you.
Here.
I
great
hope
to
you
be
come
here.
back.
You guys are a lot of fun, guys.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back. Fantastic show, guys. Look forward to seeing everybody same time next week. Good luck, fantasy footballers. Stay in the hunt. Don't give up. Pick up those Jets if you need to. You got bye weeks coming up.
There are plenty available.
All the stuff.
Don't pick them up.
All right, listen to Ross. Cut George Kittle and don't play a Jet.
George Kittle.
Hey, listen. Ross is right more often than not. So hey, listen. All right, guys. Great show. Looking forward to next week. Jim, thank you so much for joining us. This was a pleasure, and we hope to see you soon.
As a reward for making Gilcliff the undisputed clean energy drink of America and beyond, we've packed in more B vitamins, electrolytes, and killer taste than ever. And as a bonus, we've made the ultimate loyalty program. It's not a cult, it's not a club, it's the Gilcliff Gold Club. Tap into special offers like flash sales and exclusive merch, deep discounts, and eternal awesomeness. Go to Gilcliff.com to get